The first thing that I learned has to do with Arizona Cardinals quarterback Kyler Murray. I was able to watch the game. I was watching it side by side with the Seahawks-Bengals game on Sunday afternoon, and it wasn't that interesting until the third and fourth quarter. As most of you guys know, the game ended in a tie after going to overtime, but the way that they got there was the most interesting part. Kyler Murray really proved himself, I think, in a sense. He was terrible for the first three quarters, below average. Even for like a rookie in their first game, he did really bad. I don't think it's completely his fault. That offensive line is atrocious. I actually went over game film for my internship. I was asked to do a little bit of a segment on what I thought about the game in like a mock segment. And the thing I noticed is the offensive line is so inconsistent in that even when one side of the line actually is able to hold up, the other side consistently falls apart at each turn. Like it literally was either the entire offensive line was falling apart on a pass play, the left side was falling apart, or the right side was falling apart. There was never a play that I saw, and even all the highlights where things went right. I think there was 3 plays where the pocket consistently held up for more than 3.5 seconds, which is, it doesn't bode well for him, obviously. I really hope that they fix it. I would actually, for them, I know that usually you want your left tackle, your blindside tackle, to be the guy that you put the most money and the work in. But for Kyler's purposes, I think that it's too far gone at this point to have a consistently good left tackle on the team. So what I think they need to do is shore up that right side, because when he rolls to the right. From what I saw on film, he'll roll to the right. And I think if they can get that right side of the line playing consistently, even if the play kind of breaks down on the left side and he has to bail to the right side, I feel like you have more of a chance of success than if the right side's breaking down and you're rolling to your left and you're throwing going this way instead of throwing with the weight of your body. And especially with Kyler Murray being a baseball player, that's more of a natural throwing motion for a baseball player, which leads me into the thing that I thought was most interesting. Before the NFL draft this year, Kyler Murray's main comp in the NFL was Russell Wilson. A lot of people said that that was a little presumptuous, just because they are both of short stature. They both put up great numbers in college, and they both played baseball. That was just kind of like the main comps. But when you really look at their game, especially after watching him in his first NFL game, and full disclosure, I grew up a Seattle Seahawks fan, so I've been watching Russell Wilson since he came into the NFL. I saw a lot of similar things. The main difference between the two, and people are going to be like, well, Russell Wilson did this in his first couple of years. Kyler Murray will not reach the heights that Russell Wilson did in his first 2 years. I can pretty confidently say that right now. Russell Wilson went into a better system, had a better coach going into the NFL. He had a much better offensive line going into the NFL. He had much better skills players around him, and especially on the defensive side of the ball, much more reliable team. But where they are very similar is in their mentality. So, for example, there's the infamous play in the Super Bowl where Russell Wilson throws an interception to Malcolm Butler. It was tragic for Seattle fans. It was elating for Patriots fans. But what always interested me about Russell Wilson's reaction to that play is he was upset, but not visibly upset. Obviously you're upset. You just threw a game-ending interception in the Super Bowl. Your team was set to go back-to-back Super Bowls, which is insane. But you don't end up getting the job done. And that's disappointing, right? And I think almost any other quarterback in the league would live with that. They'd have to internalize that and be like, that's... And you would see it in their play. I've seen it before, not necessarily in that same situation, but a quarterback make a significant mistake, and they live trying to make up for it every single play after that. Even if it's not apparent every single play, it builds into your psyche, especially coming from an athletic background. When you make a massive mistake like that, it can really affect you. Where I think that Russell Wilson and Kyler Murray are similar is in their mentality. Kyler Murray had a terrible game for 3 quarters. The offense was not clicking whatsoever. Minimal to no effort. Minimal to no success. But Kyler Murray was able, as a rookie in his first NFL game, to continue to stay composed, to not look frustrated. He never looked frustrated to me, which baffled me. Because a lot of the stuff that was happening was not his fault. And I think him not being able to see Twitter is a pretty good thing, because people on Twitter were really giving it to him like it's his fault when it really isn't. I think that Cardinals fans rightfully are very skeptical of Kyler Murray because they bailed on Josh Rosen so fast. I know there's people that I know that are Cardinals fans that are like that, and that's completely justified. I'm somewhat sympathetic to that. But I even saw in that fourth quarter and overtime that Kyler Murray started to turn heads a little bit. And I think where him and Russell Wilson are similar is in their baseball background. I think it actually affects this. In baseball, you fail way more than you succeed. Even if you're a really, really good player, like let's say you bat 344. That's really, really good over a season in the MLB. You bat 344. That means that you are getting out over half the time that you go up to the plate. So you kind of have to learn that you're mostly going to fail and you're going to succeed sometimes. I think where Kyler Murray and Russell Wilson are super interesting as quarterbacks is I can see that mentality and that building up over the years of playing baseball for a majority of their lives, that affects the way that they play football. Because when they make mistakes, in my opinion, what I see when they're making those mistakes is they're like, well, failures come with successes. Obviously in football it's much less so. You're normally supposed to succeed more than you fail in football, unlike in baseball. But I think just having that background with you helps you internalize and be like, look, that's a mistake, I'll get another chance. That's a mistake, I'll get another chance. And that's where I think that it really affects them. You can tell in their maturity, you can tell by how, just by the way that they're composed even after they make a mistake. Throw an interception, okay, on to the next one. Not getting on teammates, not getting on themselves, not pouting on the sideline. It's on to the next play, on to the next at-bat, on to the next this. I really love the way that Kyler Murray is shaping up as an attitude, as a presence in that locker room. I think he can be a great leader. I also think what benefits him is, unlike Russell Wilson, where he came into a team with a bunch of vocal guys. Richard Sherman's a vocal guy. Earl Thomas is a vocal guy. Michael Bennett's a vocal guy. Those were always the leaders, I felt, on those Super Bowl teams. The defense was obviously what carried the Seattle Seahawks to the Super Bowl the first time around, and the second time around, since they had been there before by the defense, even though the offense contributed more in that second season, it still felt like the defensive stars were the leaders of the team. Kyler Murray is in an interesting time where he is the face that's coming to really turn around the franchise, whereas I think in Seattle it was the defense and Pete Carroll were the face of that turnaround. Especially with a guy like Larry Fitzgerald, who is obviously, as we've talked about on the show before, a stand-up guy. He is one of the best receivers to ever play the game, and he is beloved in Arizona. For him to give as much praise to Kyler as he has in the past 2 weeks lets me know that Kyler Murray has some special something in him. I'm really excited to see how it turns out. I think they're going to get absolutely clobbered this weekend when they play Baltimore. But overall, I was very impressed with what I saw from Kyler Murray. Even if it wasn't the most great, even if it wasn't the best performance on paper when you're looking at the whole game, context matters. And what I saw in the fourth quarter and in overtime made me very excited for what's going to happen with him and the Arizona Cardinals. I think that if they build around him and if they continue to follow Cliff's blueprint, I think that they can be a really successful team in about 3 to 4 years.